Good morning. Happy first day of spring here in Wisconsin. We had a major snowstorm last night, and it certainly doesn't look like the first day of spring. Be that as it may, the video series continues today. I am looking at the Gospels and considering whether they can be considered a reliable account for what Christ said and did. And I've looked at the fact that the Gospels can be dated to the period within living memory. The evangelists had nothing to lose. Nothing to gain, and in fact, everything to lose in saying the things that they said about Jesus therein. The basic facts of Jesus's life have been confirmed by other sources, both pagan and Jewish. Jesus really did exist. All these things are sure. Today I wanted to look at the text of the Gospels itself and consider whether there's evidence interiorly that we should consider the Gospels to be historical. The first thing I wanted to do was to differentiate the type of writing that we see in the Gospels from some of the ancient literature that I teach in the high school classes that I teach. I teach the Iliad, for instance, Homer's Iliad, and it's interesting to see how divine intervention is all through the Iliad. When Agamemnon, for instance, angers Achilles. Achilles is about to raise his sword, and Athena descends and puts her hand on the hilt of Achilles' sword. It's simply the way in these ancient accounts of literature to describe the fact that his on the one hand he was angry, and on the other hand he realized the imprudence of slaying his king. So it was a divine inspiration, and it comes in the person of Athena. That's the way ancient literature is written. Now let's consider the text of the Gospels. Well, what you see there is factual. Yes, there are amazing things recorded. Lazarus comes from his tomb in John's Gospel, for instance. That is not an ordinary thing, but the way it's shared is not like Athena descending from heaven, simply a figurative way of sharing something. This is simply an amazing thing that was actually witnessed, and there's no way to explain it except to share what was seen. Jesus' resurrection. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary go to the tomb, and the stone is rolled back. Jesus is not there. They come back to report that and meet a man whom they recognize as Jesus on the way. It's remarkable, it's extraordinary, but it's shared in a factual sort of way, not in a mythological or a fabulous sort of way. So there's a reportage which is occurring. It's, in other words, the way the Gospels are written indicates that they are to be considered accounts of what was witnessed about Jesus. It's not some sort of fable. So I think that's important. The other thing is regarding events like the resurrection, there are no outside sources which contradict it. There is no account, for instance, of the Pharisees providing evidence that Jesus really had died. So the gospel account of the resurrection stands alone. If it were false, you'd think that there would be some other source from the period that would contradict the gospel, and you would have competing accounts. On the one hand, the gospels, and on the other hand, other accounts that say otherwise. There are no accounts that say otherwise, and Jesus, as we covered already, truly was that important a figure that he was reported on by pagan and Jewish sources alike. That also is important. And the last thing that I wanted to say about the text of the Gospels themselves is that there are 4 accounts, and they do differ. And sometimes people may look at the fact that the accounts of the 4 evangelists differ and say, well, they contradict each other. Actually, they don't. In a court of law, if all the witnesses had exactly the same recollection and there were no differences in recollection from one to another, that would cause suspicion. Here you have 4 accounts They differ because you have the recollections of four different people and the people that they interviewed. And that itself, interiorly, is another testament to the reliability of the Gospels. That's all I have time for today. God bless.